Yeah. I'm Charles Starkey of Starkey & Company, a CPA firm, and this is Bet On You, where we talk to people who have bet on themselves and started their own business to see what we can learn from their experience and what they've been through. Today, I'm here with my good friend, Dave Duncan, who is one of the most amazing people you will meet. Dave is a graduate of University of Akron from 1976, where he studied mathematics and statistics. He was a member of the National Mathematics Honor Society, passed the actuarial exams, and then went to work in the life insurance companies. Spent about 20 or 30 years doing life insurance actuarial work. He became a turnaround specialist, which meant he would go to a company that was facing problems, help turn them around, make them profitable, then move on to the next company that was having problems. In 2005, he decided he'd had enough of this, left, and started his own company as a real estate agent. Thanks for joining me, Dave.
Thank you very much.
So, what did you do as an actuary?
My job was to help insurance companies make a little bit of money and predict the risks. Within insurance, there's a risk of living, a risk of dying, of getting sick, of being well. And my job was to take all those risks into consideration so we could make sure we paid all the benefits and design plans that did that, but also so the company made a few cents on every dollar too.
And you did this for almost 30 years.
Right.
So why would you give it up? I mean, you've got this amazing background. Why would you change and go in a completely different direction in real estate?
Passion. Just that. Just passion is the answer. What I found was in an insurance company environment, there were a lot of things that I wanted to do and did do successfully, but there were additional things I wanted to do and couldn't do them because the company didn't necessarily share the same passions I did. So my answer was typically to change companies every time they needed something new done. But once that was done, I kind of likened myself to the Clint Eastwood Western cowboy that would come into a town and clean the thing up. After that, they basically wanted me to be the fat sheriff and just sit with my feet up and babysit, and that kind of wasn't my thing. So I wanted to build organizations and that kind of thing, and I decided to finally do that for myself too.
Okay, so on that, there's lots of real estate agents out there. How do you apply that in your real estate? What makes you stand out then?
What I try to do with my business to stand out is to really bring that passion to what my client needs are. I want people, my perfect client is someone who is also passionate about doing something with their housing, someone who is going through a life transition. It could be new children in a house, children leaving a house. Maybe there's a marriage involved. There might be a divorce involved. Somebody is buying their first home. It's an older person who can't stay in their home and is leaving that home. When I leave this session today, I'm actually going to someone's house who will never go back to it again. She's around 80 years old in a nursing home and she had chemo treatment yesterday. She's never going back home. And I will take off the tie and sometime over the next week, literally go to Home Depot, pick up some boxes for her, help her box the things so that she's able to move on to the next phase of her life. So in a lot of what I do, it's really life transition work where the home or the house is the thing that stands in the way of somebody moving to their next life transition. My perfect client is somebody who really is engaged in making that move, either in or out of a house. Okay?
See, I've heard you talk about this and say, it's not just a house, it's a story that's involved there.
Yeah, with every home there is a story. Very few people are just buying or selling a home because they like to do it. I've met a few, not many. They're doing it because they have to do it. My worst client is someone who says, I'm really not interested in buying a home. Let's go out on Sunday and just look at 50 homes because I like to shop. I hate shopping, okay? And so I like to buy something, but I don't necessarily like the shopping experience. And so my perfect client is someone that says, I really have to do this. I have to move to my next phase. And with everything I do, it's kind of funny in real estate, I find myself being kind of a life transition expert, helping them through that life transition, where again, their house is the thing that stands in the way of them making that change. And my business happens to be real estate, but I consider myself kind of a life transition expert.
So looking at your resume, one of the things I noticed is you started in real estate in 2005, right before the a housing market tanked.
Great timing, huh?
Absolutely. So how was that experience and how did you get through it?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the first things I learned, one of the things I've learned in being in business by myself is how many other businesses are out there with just small employers trying to build their small business. It's amazing. On the way here this morning, I saw like a pool company truck. I saw a landscape truck. All of these businesses trying to make money. And so I'm basically using the passion that I have in what I'm doing for building my business.
So right now, as we're sitting here talking this, we're in the middle of a pandemic where people are shut down, can't work, are finding it difficult. Is there, other than the passion, is there something from there that you can give them advice on that they can learn from? Because it's a hard time having a business, kind of like it was difficult in the early 2000s, the same way that you had.
Absolutely. Hard work, three things. Hard work is essential. You show up every day for work and you work really hard at it. Number two, again, is the passion behind doing it. Number three is actually networking. Meeting with people, a lot of people, to find out what their needs are and trying to do that. And finally, it's the whole marketing aspect of things too. If I were to say one thing that would be my advice for small businesses, you're in the business that you're in, whatever that happens to be, but you're also in the marketing business. And the people that market the best are the people that typically grow the best in the biggest businesses.
So one thing I know is in the past, you had an emphasis on schools, school employees, teachers. So you were actually trying to build a niche, as we would say. How did that work for you? Something you would advise, something, so what can you...
Find something you're really interested in and go for that. My son is now a freshman in high school, but I started getting involved in his school when he was in kindergarten. By the time he was in second and third grade, I became his room mother. Now he said to me, "You can't be my room mother." And I said, "Well, I am your room mother, right?" And so, but I got very involved in the school. I've had several breakfasts for teachers. 2 or 3 years ago, I started a program with every real estate closing that I have. I actually presented one of these large Ellen DeGeneres sized checks, these 2x4 checks, not with the Ellen DeGeneres budget, have you, but with every closing, I was finding my client recommend a teacher to me who'd done something exceptional and kind of dropping into their school and surprising them with a $100 or $200 check just for their extra efforts too. So I'm very passionate about what the teachers in the schools are doing.
And it still comes back to that passion, that you're taking your passion for life transition, telling those stories and helping people move, to the passion for helping educators, teachers there.
True. And at the heart of me is a belief that in the law of reciprocity. It's just a belief that by giving, you receive back. And I don't do things to give to get things back, but I found that in giving, I get things back. And so the focus is on the giving aspect of it. And when that happens, it fuels and feeds my business where I've been able to be reasonably successful.
So along the lines of giving, we've talked, and you're in a mastermind group where you're meeting with other real estate agents across the country on there. That seems counterintuitive, as in the sense that you're meeting with your competitors, sharing ideas to help them, which may in turn hurt you. What have you learned from that?
If you're not sharing, you're playing the game as though it's a zero-sum game. When you're sharing and you're giving, you're not worried about it. If your competitor moves in across the street, take them flowers, take them candy, share ideas. They'll share back with you and help your business be fruitful as well. The network I'm a part of is kind of a nationwide network of about 500 agents. We're represented in every state, and we simply help each other. So for example, through my business networking group, somebody called me up and said, "I'm moving to Tucson. Do you have a license in Arizona?" The answer is, I do not. However, I'm part of a nationwide network of excellent agents, and I fixed them up with an agent in Tucson, and they helped them, and within a week they had a home. They made the move to Tucson, and I actually made some money doing that as well too. So we feed each other. That's what it's about. It's about feeding each other, not so much competing with each other.
One of the hardest things for a business owner to do is turn down business. We've talked about there's just as much work in a $50,000 house as a $500,000 house. So what kind of barriers have you set? What kind of guidelines have you set where you say, no, I'm just not going to take the business? And what can others learn from doing that?
A couple of things come to mind. Number one, there's one kind of client I don't take on. It's a jerk, okay? Somebody that's a jerk, or just kind of, if you excuse the expression, jackass. If they like me and refer business to me, do you know what they send me? They're friends, and they're jackasses too. And so before I know it, I've built a business of these jackasses that are no fun to work with. And so I work with people who like me and I like them, number one. Number two, I don't worry too much about the size of the home. Oh yeah, you can make 10 times the money on a $500,000 house that you can on a $50,000 house, but I help people. And I sold a home for a guy at Independence. The reason he sold his home was because he passed 2 murder scenes with a yellow tape, leaving his house and taking his young children to school one day. And he said, I've got to get out of here. So I sold his $50,000 home. And he said he wanted to buy another one, and they didn't look like they had a nickel to their name, but they were nice people. They were just nice people. So we started looking at homes. It turned out he was pre-qualified for a $275,000 home, and after selling the $50,000 home that I actually sold for like $57,000, he bought a $270,000 home in Raymore, and I ended up making a lot more money on that one, obviously. So it's not so much focusing on the size of the deal, but rather the type of the client. That's where I really focus my energies.
So not a jerk. Price doesn't matter. You want people that are good to work with.
I want people that are good to work with and who are motivated to do what they want to do. If they talk about, oh, I'd like to sell my house in maybe 3 or 4 years, that's not something I can spend a lot of time on today. So somebody that's highly engaged in the process.
But not everybody has to be your client then.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
And that comes to you may not be a good fit for me, so I'm not going to take on that work, and not to be afraid to do that.
Correct. Now, it's not easy to do it. But a lot of it comes down to marketing again. If you have a lot of business, you can afford to tell somebody goodbye. If you don't have very much business, and there's not very much going on, you can't afford to let that go. I kind of liken it to dating. When somebody is single, okay? If you have nothing going on and it's Saturday night, you're sitting at home by yourself, eating popcorn, watching a movie, feeling depressed, and yet you have the ability to go out with somebody, even if you don't like them, you don't like the way they treat you necessarily, you might do it because you don't have another choice. However, if on the personal side, people are beating down your door, you don't have to settle, okay? And so never put yourself in a position as a business person where you actually have to settle for certain types of business. Really focus and market to those people you really want so that you're not starving for attention, starving for business, and take things that you just don't want to take.
This year marks 15 years in business for you. Did you realize
Correct.
that? What have you learned? What kind of advice do you give people other than what we've already discussed? Is there something else?
I'm going to say marketing again. And when it's important to market and get business, it's important to prospect. In most businesses, the businesses are easy to do, and you're self-employed, and nobody's watching you, and so they don't know that you're taking an afternoon off. And most businesses are so easy to do that they're easy to not do. And in that regard, you have to stay engaged, and you have to market effectively. And when you market, it's a war. You're not just marketing, you're fighting a war. And you have to know who your enemy is. You have to know what they're going to do if they win the war. You have to know the benefits of you winning the war, and you have to know who you're fighting for. A small company, somebody I knew from Arbonne, they talk about knowing their why. Why do I do what I do? I mean, they know who their target audience is and who they're protecting. And we see it in the political conversations right now, right? The whole thing of marketing. Joe Biden, who's the enemy? It's Donald Trump. That's who it is, okay? Who's he saving? America. What's going to happen if Biden doesn't win? Apocalypse, and the party's over. This week is the Republican convention. Who's the enemy? It's Joe Biden and the radical left. And what happens if they win? It's apocalypse there too. Who are they protecting? America. Who are the clients each side is trying to get? They're trying to get clients. Who is it? the voter. They want them to come out in November. It's the same end result. It's the apocalypse. They've defined their enemy. They're marketing like crazy to get those voters to come out on election day. And whoever's the most effective marketer will win the election. That's what it comes down to. It's all about marketing. It's about marketing.
Well, thank you for joining me today. I always enjoy our conversations. This has been another episode of Bet on You. I hope you've learned something from it, and we'll see you next time.